Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Javier with The Real Javier Novoa, a channel, a platform, and a modality that applies the principles of interiorism to rapid lifestyle transformation, of getting you free from the prison grid. And ladies and gentlemen, it's the deep-rooted knowledge that we're aiming to have you experience on this channel via first-hand experience, which is the only way you can really know it. You know that the term prison grid, even in itself, is a misnomer. And why is that? Because I've had a lot of people who watch the channel give me feedback that the prison grid is negative. And I don't think it's negative when you understand the context. Because for those who have no idea about these modalities, they need to be awake to the prison grid, because they're not going to be able to continue their existence and their life on the trajectory that they've been continuing it in the comfort zone that they're living, because there is a prison grid, and that prison grid is tightening and constricting around us, and all you have to do is look outside, look at the news and so on and so forth to see that. But for those of us who have the knowledge of who we are, the prison grid is a misnomer, because as we know who know and have gone into these modalities, you are the prison grid. You are the vortex. You are the benefit. You are also the harm in the prison grid, because there's no separation. There's no duality. So for those of us who know this material and who are ready to take charge of our own inner processes, we know that we are the prison grid. And in that very knowing that you are the prison grid, you're free from that prison grid, and you're no longer subject to it. So the part where we talk about getting free of the prison grid is really not even a process. It's a momentary, immediate knowing of who you are. And at that moment, you're free from the prison grid. And at that moment, you can create the life that you came to live, because you're free at that moment. So all of the tools and processes that we talk about on this channel are to point you in the direction of that knowing of who you are. And there are many great processes. There's a plethora, is the word I'm looking for, of great processes, and all of the great spiritual teachers have given them. Bashar, Abraham Hicks, Eckhart Tolle, they all give processes. But as Eckhart Tolle and others say, there comes a point of time when you know that you are the process, you no longer need a process, and you can use any of the processes to your benefit, because you observe yourself and you know where your ebbs and flows are, and therefore you can apply whatever process is necessary, and you know the principles behind those processes. So it's just like a master craftsman can create his own tools, although he need not, because sometimes it's worth the effort to create your own tools. And different aspects call for different processes. That's why we're continually giving processes, helping you along the road to a knowledge and remembrance of who you are. But what we're dedicating ourselves to in these next few episodes is the one process that's not even a process, that is the embodiment and the encapsulation of the knowing that you are the process. And it's taking control of your inner conversations and your self-talk. And I talked about this book that I read when I first began my trajectory here in these modalities, and that was What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And it's not even necessarily the fact that the best scripts are written in this book, although there are some very, very good scripts in this book. Very good scripts. And he talks about how you can record self-talk, how you should write it down, and actually can make tapes so that when you sleep. And this is all very effective. But the main aspect of this is to actually go in and observe your inner conversations and actually take control of those inner conversations. That is the crux of it. That's the essence of it. And that's what will free you from any other process, and basically, to use a term, it will baptize you in to this, and it will make you an adult in these processes. So what I want to do is basically walk you through the principles of self-talk, not even necessarily give you scripts, but just give you some examples, give you a background as to why it's important and why it's the ultimate, and then let you be on your way of creating the life of your dreams through self-talk and through imagination. Because self-talk and imagination are two sides of the same coin. Neville Goddard talks about this. And even, I believe it was Dionysus, who said that when we die, the self-talk will be what guides us through that world of the spirits and so forth. So it's an eternal dimension. And if you read the great philosophers, especially the Stoics, it's all self-talk. And if you want a great example of how to talk to yourself, how to conduct these inner conversations, read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Read it often, because he has a great grasp on what I call interiorism, and on talking to oneself. All contemplation is self-talk. And what you want to do is you want to get in there, observe your inner conversations, and direct your inner conversations. Because psychologists have talked about the fact. And if you look and see actually what's going on within, you will see that you're always having a conversation with someone else. Because many people, when they think, just observe your thoughts. A lot of times you'll say, you are this, you are doing this is always happening to me. And who are we talking to? There's an observer there and a speaker there. And sometimes very distinctly portrayed in our mind as two speakers. Of course, it's all in our mind, and that's what Interiorism teaches, and we're going into the scientific bases of that in other videos. But this is the nitty-gritty of all of this. Self-talk. The first realization is you have to realize you're always having a conversation with yourself. So, might as well take it and direct it. Now, a lot of philosophers, a lot of self-help teachers, even Abraham Hicks, caution us against trying to force affirmations. And I just want to go into briefly why affirmations are different from self-talk. And affirmations can be useful as well. And they can be a subset of self-talk, but they're not the entirety of self-talk. So, for example, if you keep saying, I am rich, I am rich, I am rich, and you're trying to conjure the feeling of being rich, or even worse, if you're trying to manifest the result of being rich by repeating the mantra, I am rich, and you don't feel that, then really what all you're doing is building up the inner resistance. And that's where Abraham Hicks and other great teachers would say, go general. Don't be so specific. Worse still is saying, I have $1 million, I have $1 million. Now, that's true on a surface level. But what if we change this to what we call in this channel in Interiorism, the instrumentality of non-instrumentality, which means that we're pursuing a process not to try to make something happen, but simply to declare the consciousness within that has already happened. Then it becomes just like an imaginal act that Neville Goddard talks about. Neville Goddard talks about imagining a scene that's happening in present tense, and then you present that to yourself. So when you self-talk, and you say, I am wealthy, do it from that stance of already having it, and you're simply declaring to the universe sort of a victory cry of what is, and you're not trying to make anything happen. So take control of your inner conversation simply for the fact of feeling it more, of feeling better, and not trying to make anything happen on the outer. If you're trying to make anything happen on the outer, you are working against yourself. And I hope everyone who's watching our channel, especially those who have followed it for some time, understand this. That being known, your inner conversations are a reflection of what your subconscious has and is putting out. So if you find yourself having inner dialogues affirming or presuming things that you don't want to be true, which you'll be able to tell by your feelings, which are your indicators, then you know it's time to get in there and change it. And now here's where knowing the I am is above feelings comes into play, because the first few times you try it, you might not feel anything near that. But what you have to do then is you have to go within and just keep having that self-talk and keep declaring it. And that's where you say, thank you, feelings, for being my indicator of where I am vibrationally. I love you and I'm not struggling against you. I feel you fully, but now I'm going to continue to declare my truth no matter what feelings come up. And then you've transcended your feelings, and you will get it no matter how you feel, because you already have it. Of course, on the outer, the law of attraction, so on and so forth, according to feelings and vibrations, that's all going on out there. But in interiorism, you don't care, because your self-talk is affirming that it's happening now. I hope you understand me just a little bit. And remember, try not to follow this with your intellects. Try to feel this. Try to know it. So, I want to read just some passages of self-talk from Marcus Aurelius, because he was a master of self-talk. All of his meditations were self-talk, and they weren't even meant to be consumed by a wider audience. Thankfully, we were able to get the manuscript and so on and so forth. But just read how he talks to himself. He says, "In the morning when thou risest unwillingly, let this thought be present. I am rising to the work of a human being." So if you wake up and you don't feel good, and what we encourage our students on this channel to do is to try to feel the best you can when you wake up. There are many techniques for it. There's meditation, there's breath work, and we can go into that later also. There are different ways, but the best way is to talk to yourself within. And it works immediately, ladies and gentlemen. You can declare it and you can order them. This is, by the way, scientifically proved, but let me go on. "Why then am I dissatisfied if I am going to do the things for which I exist and for which I was brought into the world? Or have I been made for this? To lie in the bedclothes and to keep myself warm?" Now, this is not against comfort and pleasure. This is just what Abraham Hicks says. If your past vibration has now gotten you to a point where you're waking up and doing what you don't want to do, you can go do it and complain, or you can make yourself want to do it via self-talk, or you can assume or act as if you want to do it. Then you can use your imagination later to be in that situation yet not in it, and we'll teach you how to do that as well. But Marcus Aurelius is pumping himself up here and allowing himself to be in non-resistance to what is. That's the sweet spot, ladies and gentlemen. But he says, "Dost thou exist then to take thy pleasure, and not at all for action or exertion?" Of course, action is a delicious part of our experience, and we can find joy and comfort in any action if we will approach it from the modality of, let me figure out what the good parts of this are, and then let me figure out what the bad parts of this are and give myself more of the good. So, "Dost thou not see the little plants, the little birds, the ants, the spiders, the bees working together to put in order their several parts of the universe?" He's using logic and he's using empirical data to basically convince himself. As Neville Goddard said, convincing your subconscious is like convincing a woman. And once you can convince yourself of that through self-talk, and you will convince yourself, then the vibration just goes. But I won't read this all. But he also says, "How easy is it to repel and to wipe away every impression which is troublesome or unsuitable, and immediately be in all tranquility." And this is the second part of this. So we can say that there are two parts to self-talk or to imagination. And these can be done simultaneously, but it's often better, especially if you're very upset, to do the first part first and the second part sequentially after. The first part is getting yourself to neutral, and we talk about it a lot on this channel. You can use many techniques for that. One of the techniques is just getting into the present moment completely, and we have a lot of videos for how to do that. Just totally get present. Another technique is breathing, and of course, this is also very interesting aside. I have been implementing the Wim Hof methodologies, and that is breathing. And basically it's 4 rounds of 30 very deep breaths, and then just a little bit out, like And after about 30 of these, then you hold your breath and you get deep into your physiology. And then you take another deep breath and you basically massage all of your internal organs as well as your pineal gland. And it's very easy to do, and it's a very beautiful technique, and it basically releases endorphins and very good feeling chemicals in your body. There's also the cold showers, which also gets you into that neutral. If you'll take, starting with 15 seconds, going to 30 seconds, going to 2 minutes, if you take cold showers, that will stimulate an effect in your body. The blood vessels constrict and so on, and then your brain releases all of these great chemicals like opioids and cannabinoids and things like this that just make you feel good for hours thereafter. That's the chemical effect. But what's been proven in the Wim Hof method is that one day when he was doing he's basically been tested by universities, and he's able to alter his physiology in a way that science previously thought impossible. This is going to be more of the scientific proof that we give in the course. But in one of the experiments, he was told to alter his body temperature, but not by breathing, not by any kind of cold exposure, but just to do it through his mind. And he was able to do it through his mind. So the proof is that whatever techniques you use are beautiful, but you don't even have to use the technique. You can just do it through your mind. And what are you doing through your mind? You're declaring through self-talk that I am bringing about a result. A result is now happening, and then that happens. This has been scientifically proved from that you have the Wim Hof, you have things that are proven by Joe Dispenza. So the point is, it doesn't matter what technique you use, and you need not use any technique. You can just use self-talk. So another aspect of this is that there is a modality in yoga called Nidra yoga, and it is basically getting deep into your physiology and doing self-talk. But how can we get deeply into our physiology? Although you don't have to do this, but Neville and all of the other great teachers recommend this, Abraham Hicks, first get neutral through whatever way you can. For example, the breathing is a great way to get neutral. Wim Hof recommends that you do 20 of those inhalations. Then hold your breath and then take another deep breath and squeeze it. Squeeze your whole body and massage all of those nerves and then release it, and I already feel great. That's a way that you can get neutral, but you can't always do that. If you're in front of a bunch of people, you can't do that. Another way to do it is what Neville Goddard talks about. Constantly repeat with feeling, I am. I am. And you can close your eyes, I am. You'll get so good at this that you can get into that neutral state within moments, no matter if you're surrounded by people. And the best way to do this is just to be completely present, like Eckhart Tolle talks about. It all gets you to the same thing. The same chemicals are released by your brain to your body. Because, ladies and gentlemen, your body is a chemical factory. And you can consciously set off these chemicals of relaxation. Now, that's the first step. When you're in that neutrality and relaxation, you can then begin to direct your inner conversations. And you basically direct them very simply. You say to yourself, I already have what I want. You start carrying on conversations with yourself from the assumption that you already have what you want. So let's say you're in debt and you want to be a businessman, right? And you want to have a lot of money. You want to have abundance. But the fiscal circumstances aren't showing. So a conversation you might be having with yourself is, oh my God, how am I going to pay rent? I don't know how I'm going to pay rent. I'm really worried about it. And if you hone in, we often miss the thoughts, we miss the words. But if you become very present and observe your body and observe your thoughts, you'll see these thoughts coming through. I'm not going to be able to pay rent. You can stop that, get into neutral, or even not. Sometimes you have to do this just by going in there immediately and saying, I'm already wealthy, and I'm thinking about what champagne I'm going to buy tonight. I'm thinking about what steakhouse I'm going to eat at tonight. Even if you know you're not, you start having those inner conversations from the assumption that you already have what you want. And basically, we're going to make more videos directing you through these inner conversations, showing you how to do it. But once you get a handle on this, ladies and gentlemen, you're already there, guys. So talk to yourself. So, for example, let's say, you're totally broke, you're about to lose, God forbid, or you're having a hard time paying the bills. Say to yourself, you know what? I know by interiorism that I'm living in the inner world. What's happening on the outer doesn't even matter. And I can withdraw my attention from that. Because we know that you have to follow the film roll. But you don't have to think about following the film roll. So, for example, if you're on a film roll where you have to scrounge for rent, you're going to naturally do that. Tomorrow you're going to go and scrounge for rent. You're not going to say, well, I'm not going to scrounge for rent. I'm just going to let myself go on the street. You're going to do that. So let's say it's nighttime and tomorrow you're going to have to go scrounge for rent. You're going to have to find out how to pay rent. You can say, you know what? That's on that film roll, and tomorrow, I'll do what I have to do. And that's just going to be basically directed for me. I don't have to think about that tonight. In fact, my thinking about it's not going to make anything better. But what I can do to make tomorrow better is start having conversations that I want to have with myself were I already wealthy. So you start talking about, you know what? I'm living like a lord. I don't even have to pay rent. So tomorrow, I'm thinking about, I don't even have to go to work or do anything. So what do I want to do tomorrow? Perhaps I'll go to the lake and, I can go have a barbecue and so on and so forth with my family. That sounds fun. I love just being outside and having a barbecue, maybe going fishing or, just relaxing in the water. I love the thought of that. And, things are looking good here right now, and you can just look around you. And if things are nice around you, like, for example, you're in shelter, you're warm, you say, it's really nice to be in shelter and warm right now. Now, if you're not, there are two ways of going about this. You can either avoid that topic and close your eyes to it, like Neville Goddard said, if you're in prison, I can shut my eyes to those bars. Or you can make it up in your imagination, because whatever you can imagine is. Because this is interiorism, ladies and gentlemen. You make the rules, you create the inner dialogue. So you can say something like, you know what? I'm surrounded by just a beautiful space, and the walls are beautiful, and you can start just making up the tapestry as you want it to be. There's paintings on the walls. I have a roof over my head, it feels great, and I just feel good here. And next week, since I don't even have to work, I'm just going to start planning my week the way it's going to be not having to work. And basically what you do is you ignite, you're the impetus for a parallel film roll that's happening in parallel, in tandem with what's actually happening in the present film roll. And eventually, you'll get to that film roll. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's just a little bit more about self-talk. We'll be going into it more. What I basically want to do is inspire you to start observing your inner conversations and start taking control of your inner conversations. And in that is all of the wealth that you could ever seek, because it's all within you, because this is interiorism. As the great physicist John Wheeler said, there's no out there. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a great rest of the week. We will be releasing some more videos this week. We'll be going more into self-talk. We're still making videos about the scientific aspects of interiorism, establishing it as a practical philosophy that you can take and start using the tools to build the life that you love. So until very soon, ladies and gentlemen, this is Javier with The Real Javier Novoa, bidding you good night.